That awkward moment you don't like a book that everybody else likes. Okay, I really wanted to love this book. I love loving what other people love. And it's not that I thought that this book was bad. It just was kind of boring. Okay, before you throw fruit at me, this review is just my opinion. I just think that there were certain elements of this story that didn't align with my personal taste, preferences, and background experiences. That being said, I actually do think there's a target audience for this book, even though it clearly wasn't me because I didn't like it. And by understanding why this book didn't work for me, you'll understand what kind of person this book might work for. And if that's you, honestly, love that for you. So happy. Wish I was one of you, but we're not all gonna like the same thing. There will be spoilers in this review, and again, everything that follows is just my opinion. Okay, as I mentioned, I thought this book was boring, but to be fair, my boring could very well be someone else's cozy, comfortable, predictable, and that is a totally valid thing or things to want in a story. It just didn't work for me. And I think maybe where I went wrong is I went into this book not knowing anything about the story. All I had to go off of was this very specific cover and the title and the fact that it's popular and often recommended for people who liked books like Fourth Wing. So I assumed it was romantic fantasy. It had been in my Libby's holds forever, and when it finally came through, I just started reading. Why I think this is the first place I went wrong is the title, Divine Rivals, to me, promised a lot that it just did not deliver. The word divine implies, to me, godlike, powerful, high stakes. And then the word rivals, especially in the context of romantic fantasy in a young adult book, which this is, implies, again in my opinion, something akin to enemies to lovers. So together, Divine Rivals, I just think I expected a little bit more excitement. Like maybe if this was the cover of the book that I had read, I would have had more context to know that this book is actually about two teen journalists who happen to want the same position at the newspaper where they both work. Honestly, saying these two were competing for the same position is just sort of a stretch to me. It was more like they just happened to want the same thing, and I say that because they really don't antagonize each other at all in this process. I think maybe once the FMC asks the MMC out to go get a sandwich and he says no, and then she takes it super personally, but are those rivals? I'm not rivals with people that are applying to the same job as me. Do you know what I mean? Rivals to me implies something different. They're peers. They're co-workers. They work at the same place. And I actually don't know if this book is supposed to be enemies to lovers because I personally got the impression that these two are crushing on each other from the moment their dynamic was introduced. The people they work with think they're into each other, and I just never got enemies vibes. If anything, this book was definitely more like insta-love. Anyways, so maybe if you're someone who likes this book right now, you're like, oh, but there are divine rivals in this book. They're the gods who started the Great War. Yeah, okay. I mean, yes, but it's such a background element that I'm confused why it's the title of the book. Like, co-workers and the magic typewriters could have been a more accurate title, or even maybe like the writing wars. Okay, clearly I'm not getting hired as a title writer anytime soon, but my point is I just am someone who feels like the title should be a clue to the plot, and Divine Rivals to me is a misleading clue. Okay, so back to the plot. We have two teen rival journalists who come from different worlds. There's Iris, the female main character, who is dealing with some pretty traumatic life events, like her brother leaving for the war, only to never hear from him again, on top of dealing with her mother's addiction, money problems, not being able to finish school so that she can work, the works, right? And then you have Roman, who is privileged with parents who ensure his professional success and his well-being. Unbeknownst to these two in the beginning of the book, they both have access to these magical typewriters that basically let them instantly communicate with each other. So Iris thinks she's writing letters to her brother and sending them to him and not getting any responses when she's actually writing to Roman. She doesn't know it's Roman, but Roman has the sibling typewriter to her typewriter, right? So they're corresponding through these magical typewriters and form a friendship in the background of the main plot, if that makes any sense. And again, both of them don't know, at least in the beginning, who the other person's true identity is. And, this is pretty cute. It's a cute concept, even though it leads to an annoying love triangle between the secret typewriter Roman and real life Roman that I didn't care for, but I digress. It's still a cute concept. And so there's also the war going on, right? And it started because there's this one god who coerces another god into a relationship with him, and the female god tricks herself out of that relationship, making the male god super duper upset. Think like a Persephone and a Hades stand-in. Now the mortals are battling for their respective god, but this is, again, to me, such a minor element of the story. Like, we just don't see them in action at any point, really. And all of what we know about them, again, is told to us through one little story of exposition, which brings me to one of my chief complaints of this book. There was just so much telling and not showing. I was suffering from white wall syndrome, where I just didn't feel the world was developed enough for me to visualize how everything was happening. I think this problem is actually worse in the second half of the book. The first half, even though I still kind of found it boring, it had its charm. I was confused about the magic system to a certain extent, but I was like, okay, there's time to develop this. They never develop it. It's never really expanded on. World building? Who even needs world building? I need world building. When I say that this book is just a whisper of a fantasy, I mean it. It honestly reads more like historical fiction with some World War vibes, and, that's cool. It's just a different image than the one a title like Divine Rivals conjures in my head, personally. All right, so the first half of the book is Iris and Roman both competing for this role at their newspaper. Roman, the Nepo baby, gets it to nobody's surprise, so Iris is like, it. I'm gonna go become a war correspondent because 1, it pays more, and 2, maybe low-key, I will find out what happened to my brother. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Finally gonna get some action. No, we really don't. Which brings me to the other reason I just don't think this book personally worked for me. So my background is actually in journalism. And so it was harder for me to suspend my disbelief when it came to the realism of the characters' professions or the war itself. We basically never see them do their job while they're out there. Like, they're supposed to be these brilliant journalists who never actually do their job. At least we, the reader, never get to see them do it, really. Iris publishes one article that we know of during her stint, which, that's great. Just taking up the limited resources near war zone to not even do their jobs. When the reporters aren't on the front lines, they're staying at this bed and breakfast type place on the outskirts of the war zone, eating well, laughing, flirting, going on leisurely runs, gardening, and acting like everything is basically normal. This is niche, but I almost wish they were photojournalists instead, or at least that was a component of their job. I had this question actually while reading this book, why there were no cameras. When you look at journalism as a profession, photojournalism is such a huge part of it, especially in times of war. But no, in Divine Rivals, you just get these untrained teens who are most certainly liabilities to the troops around them, running around on the front lines to interview, write news stories, and report on the war. Something we don't actually see them do, ever. At least if they were war photographers, selfishly as a reader, maybe I would have had a better idea of what was going on, because it's never really described in a way that was very visual for me. I know I'm probably on this soapbox right now about this photojournalism thing, but I just think I would have been more sympathetic about their need to be on the front lines to capture only what they could capture and not just stay back where it's safer and just interview the soldiers coming back. I just don't think it would have been that hard to include either. Like, you're telling me that there's magic but no cameras, that we have trams and elevators but no cameras. It's unclear which timeline this book is supposed to more closely mimic, whether that's World War I or World War II. And to be fair, the compact camera was not invented until after World War I in the 1920s. But still, all of this is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? Like, there was such a missed opportunity in terms of journalism to understand why people are even dying for this war in the first place. We never ever really get to understand anyone's motive for the war or why they're participating in it. In my humble opinion, a good journalist tells the stories of the people doing the things, and we don't actually really get to know any of these soldiers except for like one random one that honestly I was not attached to, and his death felt very tokenized. If you're a war reporter, we should see things about the war, right? We should understand the war to some extent. I understand this is YA, so maybe there's a certain level of complexity that isn't suited for the genre, but really all we get is this generic one side good, one side bad, people die, and that is sad. Like, it's super surface level. What is shown about the war just doesn't even really make sense to me. So the bad side relies on these hellhounds who come out at night and these flying creatures who drop bombs, right? So sirens go off when it's bombing time, but there are no bomb shelters, I guess, which you would think would be a fantastic strategy since these flying creatures can actually only hit moving targets, which is mightily convenient, and you find out later in the book why it seems like that was a decision the author made. But anyways, I just had so many questions throughout reading this part of the book. Like, why aren't we building sniper stands to pick off these hellhounds before letting them just like run in and ravage the towns, killing people? Or like, why aren't we building bomb shelters or conducting operations underground instead of spending all this time digging trenches that don't even make sense for the strategic environment of the war? Trenches are for small arms, close combat, not for shielding from bombs. Remember when I said earlier in this video that the reasons I don't like this book, maybe somebody else would? I think it's valid to not want to read in depth about war. War is brutal. I understand wanting more romance and less war, but again, for me, I just didn't love that war was a convenient prop for plot without actually developing the gravity or the nuances or the accuracies of war, especially in this global climate. It's just not my favorite. The final nail in the coffin for me was the fact these two decide to get married and proceed to have wedding night relations. Listen, I know this is YA, but the whole marriage before sex plot element is just something I personally despise because it always feels like it's about religion. It totally gives me flashbacks to the Twilight Mormon discourse. I just don't care for it. Why else did they need to get married if it wasn't just so that they could have sex? This was like the only thing these two did in the entire book that actually surprised me. Anyways, I'm tired of ranting. If you want a predictable, cozy, historical fiction-esque romantic fantasy that's light on the fantasy, no complicated world building, really any world building at all, then you might be the right person for this book. The prose is decent, the pacing is slow, there's no sexual tension, just some romantic tension. The stakes are low somehow, despite being set in a time of war, so if war is something you're uncomfortable with, I don't necessarily think you would hate this book, because the war really is just a cute little background character. It reads like YA. You know, my boring could be your comfort, and that's valid. But damn, am I not interested in picking up the second book? Tell me, does it get better the second book? I'm almost afraid to ask.